shit. Usually takes a minute for. All right, we are live, Jake.
Hello and welcome everybody to another episode of Making Turbo Pit Fighter. We are making a post-apocalyptic sci-fi comic book that looks something like this, and the various phases of production. We were a little late today because we were testing out a new platform to stream on with the split screen. It's not as easy as it looks, as we make it look every week, but here we are, and thanks for coming aboard. You can see I got my white laptop open. That means I'm doing production, trying to finish up some pages here for Do Magazine #1. And Kurt is working on a giant pinup that's also going to be published in Do Magazine #1. Yeah, we're trying to finish up an anthology book. And then we're going to get back to our regular flagship book, which is Turbo Pit Fighter #1. But these are the things that we've gotten ourselves involved in. And it's always interesting to draw live on the air and talk about what we're doing as we document this years-long process in making a post-apocalyptic sci-fi comic book. So that is what now? That's the big Duke-omaton, right?
Yeah. So I finished the city, the Dome City. So I'll scan that and get that over to you today after recording. And then I'm just going to give some shadowing here, some just flourishes, if you will. I got 3 hours to do that. So, but once again, I just want to make a statement. I do not have anything else to work on after this, Jake. What am I supposed to do, Mr. Jacobs?
Oh, good night.
Did you scan anything this week?
Yeah, I scanned these things that I'm working on right here. And the thing that you wanted to be working on, well, I sent you the automaton, so that's good.
Yeah.
And that was really all we had for Do Magazine, right?
Because we'll be going right into. I'd like to get going on issue 2, inking of Turbo Pit Fighter.
Right. Did we also say we were going to go over that package of stuff I gave you in person to ink? I don't know if there's anything in there.
We kind of did. I mean, I can once again, like I've got two folders. I mean, I can ink something. I mean, it's optimal to ink your shit.
Well, what was in there? I have no idea what was in there. It was just like characters.
Well, you gave me. These are the originals for. I'll just take it out. If there's anything egregious in here, you'll have to live with it. But yeah. So like, here's a turbo drunk with robot. So
I gave you that original.
Yep. This was from IC3. I actually have all of the, because one of the things I wanted to see in the Turbo Pit Fighter is a lot of the stuff that it takes to make a comic. Like this stuff is just, I love this.
Yeah, well, I definitely didn't want that anymore.
This is great stuff.
Yeah, I got it.
Good. Here, this is fun. There's another one. We got this. I mean, you have a good amount of back matter here.
Yeah, I got tons more like that. But,
yeah, I can't show that, which is the original cover. about the title, the whole real title.
Oh yeah, some stuff that you wanted. Yeah, so
Yeah,
that covers all done. That's the cover of Turbo number 1,
sure.
cover A.
Cover A, yeah. Then let's see here. What's
I
in this
covered that a
thing?
long time ago, and I
Here's some. Look at this.
after that's
Da-da-da. This
gonna
is
be a
like
print
some weird ass printed on
text.
vellum text, but it's your no. This is your handwriting.
Yeah,
Good God, Jake! This is like 8-point type. What the hell?
I know. I used a good little rapidograph for that
Holy
back in the
crap!
day.
Yeah, you were only 22 years old. I mean, you still had eyesight. Jeez, and
Well,
nice. Look at that.
you
Look
should
at.
scan that. I'll use those for the letters.
Yeah, I will. That's a great because this is 12 point. Look at this.
Hand letter.
Holy shit, that's pretty cool. All right, yeah, that'll. And then of course the original page is pencil. They're upside down. Good God, you have some of them on vellum. That's 28. See how tight these pencils are, people. This is like a comic in itself.
What is that?
This is issue 1. This is all your pencils, issue 1.
How do you have them?
Oh my God, Jake. We had this discussion because you were reluctant to get a printer because of your move. And I was really harping on you. And you're like, well, I'll just bring them to IC3 and give them to you. I was like, okay, thanks.
And that's how we did it.
That's how we did it. And you're not, and we're not selling them. So, you know. See, here we go.
We gotta raise the money.
So here's a nice. This is pencils because you had done pencils like once, and then you light boxed, and like here I can show everybody. So then this would have been placed over this nice cream color paper, and then you did it again. So the pencils were twice as tight, or one tighter. So, but your pencils.
I didn't know what to do with the stuff, so Kurt said, "I'll take it."
Yes, Kurt will always take anything physical in art form. So yeah, this is great stuff. So this was envelope 1. Last week we did envelope 2. I will bring that one out.
Well, there's
again.
nothing for you to ink there for publishing, right?
Yeah, exactly. I mean the only because after I do the Dutomaton, there's nothing else to be made art-wise. Like that's it. It's just text, layout, get copies printed at. We're going to get a couple comic book printers to do mock-ups for us, and then we'll sit down and talk about those. But starting next week, I really do need 3 to 5 pages of first 3 to 5 pages of Turbo issue 2.
Yeah, I thought I might have posted those already. Let me see.
Is that on the FTP, the Hellclaw FTP?
Yeah, that's. No, it's not Hellclaw.
What's the name of the FTP?
Well, I don't want to give it out on the air.
Oh, that's right. Sorry. Here,
I'm checking it now.
I'll go to your email. Here, wait a second.
So no, I mean, you're talking about Turbo number 2. I didn't scan anything for Turbo.
Okay. All right. Well, then that makes sense. All right.
Okay. So.
All right, we're all right then. All right. So yeah, it's all in your court. I'll put a little reminder on Friday to send you an email, so you'll spend the day Saturday scanning.
Well, next Saturday I'm away, right? Next weekend we said we were going to broadcast on Juneteenth instead of next weekend, right? Is that still the case?
That's right. Right. Yeah. All right.
Yeah,
so then that gives you 2 weeks. I will put a note in on the Tuesday 16th to get Jake to scan Turbo 2 pages. But I'll send you out a little nudge. And yep. All right. We have no.
So it seems like that I'm going to be looking ahead. It looks like I'm going to be a big bottleneck if I'm going to be lettering Turbo. I'm going to be lettering Turbo 2 pages.
No. Well, no, issue
Turbo
1. Issue 1 of Turbo 1.
Yeah, I'm going to be lettering Turbo 1.
Yeah.
I won't be able to pencil Turbo 2 pages for a long time.
It sucks for you. I do feel for you, but you know, we're a fully operational comic book making company publisher that only operates on Sundays between 10 and 1. So
yeah, it's
well, I mean, you know, it makes sense, Jake, in the, let's say, like the dynamics of being professional and in a business, quote unquote, to move directly into. But there's nothing saying, you know, once we get the Doom Mags out to the printer, it's going to be like 2 weeks or so to wait for those copies. Why don't we just take 2-3 weeks and you get to go back to drawing pages? There's nothing saying you have to go. You have to. Jay Jacobs, I need you to get immediately on the. You know, that's not how we're operating this.
Right. Well, it's something I've been dying to do. Like we left off here, page 25, and Turbo. Let's see. Turbo had infiltrated the young Turbo had infiltrated. Oh no, these are just roughs here. I think. Oh, I'm going through. We were up to the point where, look at this. They were in the town. This is where I really left off. They were in they were in the town. All right, so they had defeated all of the.
What page is that? 24.
25. Well, these are rough. Hold on. I'm going back here. So, and it doesn't look like there's any numbers on here, but all of these pages are finished. These are my roughs, and so when I'm going back to my roughs, we get to the point where they get into the town and they find Mr. Ike and they bring him aboard. So this is a page that I roughed out and I haven't drawn yet, and it looks like this. And they bring Mr. Ike aboard, and then we see Mrs. Ike shooting with that gun.
Yeah.
This is where I left off, and and she actually blows up the people that are pursuing them. That just missed. Keep weaving. They blew up our tail. Guess we'll never know who that was. So I was just about to. So I need to go back to this even rougher thumbnail notebook that I have to get the next steps. But that's what I was doing. I was like composing pages, right? And I turned the page right here. So that was this page. So this turns into this, and then eventually it turns into this, you know, on good comic paper with blue line pencil and then regular pencil. So it looks like I roughed out page 26, and I'm ready to draw it on a final card here. But this leaves off on page 24, so I still have to do page 25 too. And so that's this page here, where page 25. Yeah, so it'll be a delight to get back to this part of the story, this part of the process.
Right. Yeah. So why don't we just plan on taking like 2 or 3 weeks? Let you just get back to connecting to issue 2, waiting on the proof copies from a couple of printers for Doom Mags 1.
Yeah, I'm just gonna go with mix them. For me, I don't see any reason why to change. I mean, unless
Okay.
there's a better price or something. But
Well, I got a place in Philly called Fireball that I've been wanting to try. So I mean, I'll be more than happy to throw a copy out the and I'll even throw something up on Lulu just to see what that looks like. As a matter of fact, speaking of Lulu Comics, um,
that's the on-demand printer.
yeah. So I just got a level 9 Drow pulp, a midnight pulp comics, 32 pages, black and white, magazine size, um, black, and it's a glossy paper. It's not heavy. I just think it feels that way with it. The only negative is that you get no inside covers. That's the only negative, is that those two places are not, you're not able to print with Lulu, but really solid product. I have to say. I mean, obviously when you're up at magazine size 8.5 by 11, that's it. But totally loving these two magazines, comics by Level 9 Drow, which is Isaac Horn. Yeah, we're going to add him to the list once we've got our OBS process on for recording. So, because when that'll be the big move, is getting somebody to come on as the third guest that would jump in. So we're using OBS Studio to now run our podcast because we're running at 3-hour long live streaming. That doesn't jive with the way Riverside.fm is configured. They're way more about internalized recording and post production and AI and all that kind of fun stuff. So we've outgrown them in a kind of like a lower brow way because we just want low fidelity, don't have to do any editing other than when we have somebody join us as a guest artist, whether they're just coming to hang out or we can cut that. I can cut that out and then have a separate video then posted in our Indie Creator Exchange. But I'll tell you, one of the really exciting things, Jake, about OBS is they have this thing called scenes. So right now we're just in the first scene. And as you can see, I got a template in, which has Jake penciling on one side, Kurt Inker on the other, the Turbo logo in the middle. I just kind of put a bar there in the middle to help me gauge focusing squarely both of our cameras. But I can create other scenes. So I could make a scene where, you would tell me ahead of time that you want to check out all the books on powerpulpcomics.com. Well, now I can link to powerpulpcomics.com as a browser, jump us over to that scene, and we can now be like live on the air, transition to powerpulpcomics.com and browsing that and talking about things. The other thing too, I have to learn that some of these things that I'm saying, we can make some small videos. I can host the videos like a trailer in the beginning. So we could do our old trailer or come up with something new.
You're talking about pre-recorded stuff?
Pre-recorded, your PDFs, for instance. Now, the only thing is you're going to have to constantly remind yourself that I am the only one that actually has the control over the scenes and moving to another space. So, we would have to do a little planning ahead of time. I would need to make sure that I have a good understanding for it. And, we can give some small things a try and stuff. But my wheels are already starting to spin.
Well, I know that. So was it the case that on Riverside, every time we would do I would do a stack of haul that you would take that and make that a breakout video?
I still can do that.
Right. Okay. So does this make this any easier or harder, or does it change it in any way?
That part is not going to be any different. Although what I would do is when I know ahead of time and I have figured it out because I've only gotten us this far, is I would set you up with your own scene. So we would transition to a whole camera for you, and then you would just have the whole video space to hold your comic book open and flip through it and show things off. It wouldn't be on the left side, even in the live stream, but yeah, I can then cut it out from there.
Let me know when you're ready for that, because I have this week's stack.
Yeah, give me literally like a couple. I mean, we're not going to be next week, so you know, I need at least like 2 or 3 weeks just to have the muscle memory of setting us up and making sure everything is copacetic. That's the only thing. I just don't want to start running ahead of myself and then be like, oh shit, I forgot to do this, so we lost all that, or the echo's back, you know. So I just need a little bit of time.
But all of this content will be accessible and editable into the posterity, right?
We would have to you know, basically make it and then host it, and then all I have to do is create a scene to be able to give access to it, and then it would just transition over to that scene of whatever that content, with both of our mics still operating. And then because that's the biggest thing with OBS is the audio. That's the thing I do not have 100% confidence in. I've got like 95% confidence just plugging in cameras and browsers and all that fun doodle data. But for the most part, it's going to take me some time for the muscle memory. But this is all free too, by the way, Jake. We are freeing ourselves of our
corporate overlords.
Yeah, no more Riverside fees. So now I'm going to actually miss some of the things about Riverside. I have to be honest with you, and everybody else. I don't want anybody to think I'm shitting on Riverside. Jake and I have just found it easier to run ourselves every Sunday this way. And, you know, 3.5 years ago when we started doing this and using Riverside, they had just started. So they were very like open but we were only recording and editing. So when we've only been doing this live 3-hour thing for like 6 or 7 months, I think we started November of 2025.
Yeah.
So,
right. Well, we just need our purposes met, and we're the only guys doing split screen live draw on YouTube every week, making a comic. I don't know why there aren't more people doing it, but you know, it's probably because of the split screen technology. And you know, luckily we have already tested out a couple of platforms. One being Riverside, which is, you know, an annual fee. I guess it's a couple $100.
Yeah, it was like
$200 a year for, you know, to be able to do that. And then, you know, you also have the tedium of you know, making sure you back everything up. Otherwise, YouTube is the only place where your content will live, and that's another corporate overlord. But you know, we will be flexible. I mean, I'm just thinking like, in a couple of years, you know, maybe 5, maybe 10 years, you know, you might want to say, oh, you know, here's a great, you know, here's a great sequence, or here's a great segment we did about the making of page 13. And, you know, let's pull that out, and we'll put that on Instagram or YouTube, or, you know, whatever the thing's going to be in the future.
Right.
Right.
No, very good point. Yeah.
Snapchat or whatever it'll be. You know, oh, everyone's moving over to this new platform now. It's called, you know, it's called Ding Dong, you know, whatever. And so Kurt can just take that content, and he can say, you know what, we're going to take the audio and separate that. We're going to take the video. We're going to speed up the video. You know, you can do all kinds of editing. We're going to add some titles. You know, how about predictions? Oh my God, the predictions.
Yeah. That's going to be fun.
That's going to be real fun. And, you know, I could talk about that because I did bookmark. For a couple of weeks, I've been bookmarking on the Dude Mag's Twitter some heinous stuff going on, you know, right now. and something just yesterday, that's going on with robotics and drones. And yesterday, the thing that I found, I might as well bring up this tweet and bring up this link since we're talking about this. It's if you want to follow along at home, go to Do Mags on Twitter. And what did I retweet? Well, it says this was on 60 Minutes. January, February, March. This was in April, but in 60 Minutes, microbiologists have created the first synthetic species. It took 15 years and $40 million, and they took a type of bacteria that lives inside the intestinal lining of goats, and they used that as a model so that they could create it without any real biological organic DNA, all just made from lab, parts. Just like take some proteins here, take some atoms here, take some this, take some that. A cup of tea.
What?
You know that.
What are you talking about?
That scene where Bugs Bunny has the witch and she's like, "Eye of news."
Oh.
Right? Remember that?
Yeah, I do.
So they have, and it is stable, and then they say, all right, well, does this, and they're showing it. It's just these little dots in this little petri dish, and they're saying, all right, well, was this engineered for any purpose? And then the guys, they're like, no, not yet. But they're just establishing that this can be done. But now, of course, that's what's going to be happening next, and it's going to be overwhelming because synthetic species, synthetic lives. What? Are you kidding me? Like, this is going to have to be done with the highest levels of ethics and oversight and everything. Otherwise, some rogue lab in Croatia, or should I say Latveria, is going to, just create a biological, thing like the blob that just keeps growing and growing, or maybe like some, virus, that, with bat DNA, or I don't know what's going to happen. Anyway, science is just really getting to be scary. For me, it's just like, I always go to the negative, like, because when you're a school teacher, you always think, hey, could you use this in your classroom? And like, I don't know, can it be used as a projectile? That's always like, I always think like, what can somebody do with this that might be an unintended consequence? Yeah, we want to cure diseases, and we want to prevent, babies from being born. And I think the most valuable thing that they looking for is, can they engineer some kind of species to like eat the pollution off the bottom of the ocean, or to eat carbon dioxide and spit out clean oxygen, stuff like that.
Yeah.
And those things are being experimented with, like mosses. They're talking about biomass and energy being created from biomass, and we've been hearing about this for decades. That if there's a moss and it's grown in a petri dish in a lab, and it gives off 2 more electrons than it uses, well, then it's an energy source. So now they want to know, all right, how do we create a gigantic wall of this shit, and attach an electrode on one end and an electrode on the other end, and use this to power our data servers, or whatever, So all that's been going on for a long time, and I've been following that kind of stuff. So yeah, what else? So since we're doing the catch up here, I have creators beware. If you don't create a trust to manage editorial control of your name and likeness in perpetuity, your heirs might do something as devastatingly cringe as this. And then I have a link to Stan Lee's voice sold. 11 labs now making the Marvel Legends speak with AI.
Get centered. you
Well, yeah, I don't know.
No, no, no.
So,
You're fine. You're fine. You're just off to the left a little bit. I know it's gonna be challenging to gauge the camera.
leave my politics out of this. Yeah, so I spoke about this on a live with Matt. I don't know if we discussed it, but Stan Lee's AI likeness is being marketed now and sold by 11 Labs. And if you have a product and you want a voiceover, or if you want an interview with Stan Lee, they will synthesize his voice and his likeness and his image and his AI caricature, so that you can hawk whatever product. Hey, this is the greatest comic book ever. I have been paid for this announcement. And Stanley, of course, is dead. So this is the Stanley heirs who never treated him well in life. I think there was the one daughter, and she was accused of kind of prostituting out his name when he was alive and sticking him in a nursing home, right? Yeah, I remember these stories. We must have went over these stories. He died at age 96 or something in a nursing home, and he didn't have access to the outside world, and he didn't have access to his adoring fans or anybody. There was all these horror stories. I don't know how accurate they are, but now they're using Stanley, and they have 11 Labs, which is, I guess, some AI, company, and they are selling, whatever you want, they're selling for hire, whatever you want Stanley to say, whatever you want him to do, he's all yours for a price. So, I saw this on Substack, and I made a joke. I think this was like the read the effing comics account that was posting this, and I made a joke. I was like, "Is AI Jack Kirby going to sue AI Stan Lee?" And then someone's like, "Yeah, they're going to get an AI lawyer and everything."
No, God.
But yeah. This. I mean, forget about Stan Lee. We're just entering this age where everybody's going to have to worry about this. And there might be some comic book purists that say, oh, well, don't prostitute Stan's, memory, with this for hire stuff. And Stan's, Stanley's daughter, whatever her name is, Lieber or whatever, might be like, well, I need to pay some bills, so I'm going to do what I want to do. And therein lies the difference between, the art and the capitalization of the art. And we're going to be going through this for every celebrity. You could already see Humphrey Bogart on commercials for Nutella.
Yeah, but how many? Yeah, but how many uses do you really truly get out of having Stan Lee as your spokesperson a year? 3, maybe? Like maybe 3? I mean, once you start seeing the 4th commercial and he's hawking some sort of like 2nd or 3rd rate car insurance. I mean, I don't know. Maybe I don't know. I see concern, but at the same time, I just see it as like, I don't care in the sense of whatever it is he's supposed to be selling me. You know what I mean? Like I don't have an emotion. He doesn't have an emotional anchor in me to cause me to buy something. Like, oh fuck, Stan Lee is endorsing this 3rd grade car insurance. Shit, I should change over. But 2 years from now, if you see 25, if 2 years from now you see 20, he's on 25 freaking commercials, it waters the sort of like what the value would, I guess, be in having him endorse something. So
well, you gotta realize it isn't just going to be hawking some product, like for.
Well, the other thing is going to be like audiobooks. That's like the biggest thing,
right? It's going to be and it's going to be telling the Marvel history. There's going to be some docu series or whatever with his voice, and it's going to be somebody writing a script that may or may not be accurate.
But that's the problem.
Yeah, and
right?
right, and that's the annoying thing to me is is there going to be a clear disclaimer saying this is an AI generated voice, or is it going to be like, oh, they're purposely trying to muddy the waters, and and make it seem like this is Stan telling the story of what happened. Oh, Jack Kirby, came to me and he said, oh, you're the greatest for inventing Iron Man, but I had no claim to it. I mean, it could be, one side of the story that who the hell knows, whether it's accurate or not, because Stan Lee is definitely in some, contentious claims about who invented what. So, I'm just concerned about that. Are there going to be any kind of guidelines? Because I think there are now on TV. When something is created AI, they have to have a little bug in the bottom saying, AI generated image, and it's, which is also a slippery slope, because isn't Photoshop itself, AI? Well, even just because a human is operating it, it doesn't mean it's not AI tools, right? Right? Like, oh, you're.
Do you remember? Do you remember? It's a little fuzzy for me, but for some reason, I think it was 80s, if not early 90s, late 80s or early 90s. Playboy magazine was facing a huge amount of criticism and competition. I think Penthouse magazine as well, because there was sort of, I guess, like maybe Hustler, or probably it was Hustler magazine, but yeah, I guess it would have been him. Who did who owned Hustler magazine?
Larry Flint.
Larry Flint. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that this is what it is. If it's not, I still have some real vague memory. Is that he was basically pushing that his girls were all real, no Photoshop, no airbrushing. There was no Photoshop, airbrushing. And it was a huge social contention. There were people that I think were even like siding with Larry Flint and saying, yeah, I don't read that Playboy or Penthouse rubbish anymore, because you can't tell who's real and what's real on the girls anymore. You know what I mean? Like we've always been in this, like, we don't want to be fooled, but we end up enjoying it anyways at the end of the day.
Yeah, I think when anybody sees a celebrity in a movie poster and there's no pores in their skin, we all take it for granted, that magazine covers, posters, billboards are all highly airbrushed. That was a great sales tool for Hustler, because their models were probably like a top model would probably rather go with Playboy than Hustler, right? Because it's more tawdry to be like spread eagle, and then you could just be behind a shower curtain or something,
Right. Yeah, but the actual, like, the centerfold itself would be very blemish ridden. It would just basically be a flat mannequin type.
Right. It's
you know what I mean? Like it was.
I mean, that's great. Some people like. Yeah, I mean, obviously, Playboy was selling that way, so it's different strokes for different folks. No pun intended. But but what a great selling point for Hustler and those other magazines to differentiate itself. Like these are the girls next door, homegrown. They're probably not shaved. God knows what's going on. I mean, I'm sure that they take out like all the blisters and and scabs. Sometimes you don't really see those. But the point being, there's always some level of production, and I know because when I was doing graphic design, I would get handed an annual report for like a Greek shipping company, and here's the 5 founders, or all these crusty old men, and I was specifically told, take out all the moles, take out all the wrinkles. I could show you before and after, because I saved some of those jobs, and that's the job. And if you think they aren't doing this on live TV now, they have filters for doing this on live TV now. If somebody's got a really bad canker sore or something like that, they have a way of. I mean, everybody knows from Snapchat you can turn yourself into a penguin, when you're talking to somebody. So why can't they just, put they say, all right, Tom Cruise is going to be walking around the room, and they put a white adhesive on his face, and now the computer is just going to track him, so that when you see the Mission Impossible movie, when it finally comes out, that's just going to be automatically taken out by a filter, and and the human can do it if the computer can't do it. But you can see on YouTube, on Instagram videos and TikTok videos, you're looking at a woman talking to you who's got perfectly blemish-free skin, and it just looks fake, and or the women that they use like the hourglass figure on their body, right? And everyone's talking about how that's creating unrealistic expectations for young girls and stuff, right? We've been talking about this for 10 years now. So all of the above is technically AI, and so I'm wondering, what the law says as far as generative AI, and what has to be disclosed in a TV commercial or whatever, or a internet commercial. These are all interesting arguments. Oh shoot, I should be showing my screen. Sorry about this, people. These are all interesting arguments to have, but it's going to get tougher and tougher, because right now, like, when I show an AI picture on a slideshow, my students are just like, that's AI. They can tell, and they're actually trained to tell, a mile away, which is good. But the AI is getting better, and that's all going away. Like, the ability to be able to tell is going away at some point. We spoke about this movie. All right, here we go. So here is a Instagram video, and it's showing a guy in a test lab, and there's only one line here. It says controlling lasers through eye tracking technology, and this guy has a backpack on where there are lasers being pointed at something, and the lasers are following wherever his eye is going. And see this? He's popping the balloons. Right now, it looks like this is real. 'Cause I never just assume everything. Something you see is real. It's kind of sus to me that the laser is like this bright blue line, but I guess that's possible. That a laser is amplified light in a focus beam, and here they're showing it. The guy is just training his eye on balloons, and then here he's training his eye on matchsticks, and the lasers are singeing them. Here he's going right through some pieces of cardboard, right? So what's new here? Because if the question is, like, if you had a handheld laser, you could just point it wherever you want with your hand. So what's the difference? The difference is, I guess, is this like for handicapped people? Like, if you want to do this with your eye all of a sudden. Anyway,
That's so weird.
This is a tweet for this guy named Travis Kalanick. Kalanick, I don't know. Anyway, he is one of the founders of Uber, and he's the former CEO of Uber, and his latest venture is to create a robotics company that is going to be providing. Is this the one? God, I can't get rid of these ads. God damn it! You see all this? Hold on, let me go back to where I was. He's going to be making a market for modular wheelbases for a variety of automated machines, including robots. So instead of him saying, I'm going to create a robot that can do this, or I'm going to create a robot that can do this, he's creating these wheelbases, which means I'm going to just create like a modular piece that any robot maker can just attach to, and then they can have the wheels which will guide you around, geolocated, voice activated, go to a position on a prompt, or it could be programmed using whatever programming language, so that all you have to do is program the tops of your robots or your machine or whatever it is. It could be a cigarette vending machine, or it could be whatever, and he'll supply the wheelbases, so that it can move around and that it just plugs right in. So that's another interesting thing, because he's going in with a big round of funding, and he's a big established CEO. Skynet update. You're seeing all this other stuff about the agents and how they act, right? Those studies are going on. So just a little catch up on that, right? To see how that's going. The AI, it's doing all this. They're comparing Claude versus Gemini versus Grok, and they're saying which in a fictitious world, which ones burn the world down, and which ones actually create a survivable planet, and so they were saying that only Claude didn't kill all the agents, they kill all their own agents, but that if you put the agents in a combined world, that Claude learns from the other agents, that how to kill and create and set fires and then do really destructive things. So it's really pretty grim, and what's going on out there as far as leaving the AI onto its own, because they're learning from human patterns and human conditioning, and
And we are the worst people to want to learn
right,
from.
worst ones. It's just what are the inputs? Well, I want to get money, I want to get power, I want to get elected, I want to get laid, I want to get
Yep.
and so we've created artificial intelligence, but we don't have any artificial morality,
Artificial morality,
right, or we
That's
don't
heavy.
have any.
That's heavy.
Yeah, and we don't have any, or even just the basic human.
Well, the Pope didn't want anything to do with it. What was it? Anthropic was giving him like some kind of like carpeting carte blanche to help guide the techno morality of AI, and he was like, "No, thank you."
Well, no, yeah, the Pope published a manifesto saying that this is the modern Tower of Babel.
Yeah.
And that families should resist this in as much as you can. And he put out this thing. I think it was like 90 pages, and nothing in it was done with AI. And it was I think they call it an encyclical when the Pope puts out like this kind of like moral guidance, and they said that it was really, really deeply researched, and it had a lot of great points about the good of AI, and it had a lot of great points about sources, and they, like, I didn't read it, but I know somebody that did, and they invited me to comment on it, which I still haven't done. But it wasn't just like just slapped together. Like this current Pope really like put some time into getting it together. So it's really interesting, and all the AI companies are just like now seen as these immoral corporate profiteers, and all they care about is the profit margin and taking control. But it's really way beyond that, because the data center question goes way beyond profit. There's no profit happening in the data centers, and in fact all of the there was a headline. I'm not going to bring it up, but there's a headline I saw this week that said that banks right now are trying to figure out how to isolate the expected losses. It's called risk mitigation or securitization. And this might sound familiar, but they're taking the most risky part of some of these data center construction investments, and they are securitizing them, which means they're slicing them up into little financial instruments and then pairing them together with something that is a little more or that is a lot more stable, and then they're selling those packages to the general public or to investors or to mom and pop investment firms, and trying to get suckers to buy into this, knowing that they're hiding the risk, all of this risk. And the big risk, if people don't know what the hell I'm talking about, the big risk is that right now they're building data centers. I mean, there's one in Utah that's being built that's 60 square miles. 60 square miles, right? Bigger than Manhattan. They're building a data center in the Utah-Idaho border right now. 60 square miles. And it's just going to process information and server and cloud and digital computing power and digital storage and digital data and everything. And it's going to consume massive amounts of energy, and the cost involved in building these things is in the hundreds of billions of dollars, right? And I've, like they said, like one company alone, like Facebook was sinking in $100 billion alone. And I found out why they're all doing this in such a hurry. They're all doing this in such a hurry because the one big beautiful bill allows something like a 5-year window where they can take all the depreciation all at once. And if they don't get these things built within like 3 to 5 years, they're going to lose that opportunity to take all the depreciation all at once. So it's a little bit of accounting, a trick or an accounting incentive for them to get this done. But the other big part of it is that it's just an arms race, because the first person with the most gigantic data center can get the contract with Pfizer to develop the next drug that's going to they're going to figure out like how to synthesize proteins or whatever, so that they can make a race to make this next drug that will lower your A1C, or the next drug that will do whatever, the race is on, because AI is going to be able to figure out how these proteins all fold into each other. Really cool stuff, really advanced stuff, but also just like it's just like a money race. Who can commercialize this? And if you have these data centers that can do these computations, and then it's also going to be who can make the best weapons, who can make the best algorithms for security, and who can defeat the algorithms, right? Because if the quantum computers come online and they say, all right, we now have the capability to defeat any password. We can just we can guess so many times a second that we can come up with the answer every time, and nothing is secure anymore. Well, that day's coming, and the first one that gets there is going to be able to sell security systems to everybody else, or maybe no one will be able to sell security systems. Maybe it'll be the other way around.
They're saying it's going to be there's going to be a new. It wasn't stated in Jensen Hong's from NVIDIA's Taiwan talk or statement, whatever they call that. But he did say that NVIDIA is going to be entering the hardware market and even a capacity of making its own computer at Computex is what he's been calling it. And that's with the was the RTX Spark AI driven
Are you
chip.
talking about
Chip.
Yeah, those are AI chips, but are those
Right.
quantum computers?
No, this is the next phase of how we're going to be engaging with our computers. He basically said laptops and home desk computers, cloud workspace, all that kind of stuff is going to go away, and it's all going to get housed into one machine because he's going to merge the motherboard with this chip, and then they'll be manufacturing whatever it is. They didn't have any visuals for what that's all going to be like for us to engage. They even say the internet's going to be gone because if you think of it this way, I have LLM models. They're a little bit outdated, but I have like Llama and Llama. It's probably like a year old or something. But that's the internet. I have the internet on in a 5.8 gigabyte file right now. So in a lot of like theory that's coming forward, because it's what it's scraped. It scraped the internet. Every piece of information is inside an LM, as well as like the photographs, like when you're doing text to image generation, all it is just working off of the mapping of trillions of images. Unspeculated images. In other words, it doesn't matter if it's a Degas or a Kurt Bruegel or a Jake Jacobs or Michelangelo. It's just an image that was secured by the computer, the scraping for in the beginning as a JPEG. You know what I mean? So like the hardest part I think nowadays is application to fear and theory. Because the whole password thing is going to go away. It's just not going. It can't exist anymore because of quantum computers. Because the whole theory behind password protection is that it can take up to million years to go through all of the possible security, lines of characters in a password. So therefore nobody can break into basically your password protected account, right? Well, quantum computers move 1 trillion million times faster than anything else, so that's what eliminates it. So they're not going to backstep into and secure everything in the way of passcodes. It's going to be no. Everybody now needs to adopt these new machines. And that's really where I feel like we're very much heading into. So to calibrate your fear and prediction by what we've already experienced is completely fallible. It's a waste of time.
Well, it sounds like a hardware dongle protection, but one thing I never understood is if you get locked out after 3 wrong guesses, what difference is it going to make if you have 1 trillion, quantum computer chips? If you keep getting locked out for like 24 hours.
Well, you're not. I mean, one of the running theories is that the federal government is or private institutions will verify you as a human being based on DNA, eyes, fingerprints, and then federal backing of like, for instance, I have a federal ID, right? I have the gold star on my license. That means that I went through the Delaware, the DMV, and they met with the federal government to basically align that I am this person who is accountable on this piece of license, this verification. So we have to, this is analog once again. That's an analog way of verifying yourself. And it's going to get to a point, I believe, where we're not ever going to have any autonomy, if you will, unless you want to, truly be off the grid, like Logan's Run kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So it's where I get it. I feel it. I mean, Jensen Holmes from NVIDIA's statements that he was making. It was actually quite exciting the way he put it out there in the way of like possibilities. And one of the biggest possibilities I have been waiting for years is basically just having my own AI generating machine. That's just I feel like my biggest problem with AI generating machines.
What are you going to use it for?
It's all just a part of the workflow. You know what I mean? Like how I talk to Gemini now in order to help bounce ideas back and forth. You know, like you know, even generating sketch material, or like, you know, hey, here's a verbal statement, you know, description of something. Can you give me like a visual of it? You know, like I was doing a Google image search, right?
Yeah.
And then all the way, I tell you, the best thing about AI for me and my business is proofreading. I cannot thank it enough. Couldn't pay the $20 fast enough when I first jumped onto ChatGPT, and the free version was just giving me exactly what I wanted. But, you know, to be able to write something out in the rough, like just like almost, I mean, I would even put myself out as uneducated in writing, like a writer. Like I'm nowhere near or ever would become a writer, basically because of my dyslexia and stuff. But I can have a conversation with a piece of text that I write and I'd be able to expand upon it and keep twinking it in order to get somewhere where it's fine. You know what I mean? Like, this is good. You know, now let me start doing my sketching. Let me start doing my layouts. Let me start trying to find some images, generate some reference material, blah, 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 blah. It's just workflow. The way I've been working from morgue files and collecting magazine clippings to then the initial internet and taking 45 minutes to download a 110K kilobyte image to having Google and Google Image. You know what I mean? Like the creative process.
You got that, and you know, but then you know, if the finished product looks like AI, there's a lot of people with the backlash.
No. This is not this. That's exactly what the challenge is, though. The challenge is how do I use this technology in order to advance myself, in order to make things stronger, more understandable, more creative, more challenging, and you know what I mean, like more.
I know what you mean.
Without it being.
Yeah, I mean, the Pope is talking about, you know, the Pope is talking about all these great tools for automation. I think, you know, and the conversation always just leads back to, you know, who owns it, who controls it, and whether or not the people that it was trained on were fairly compensated.
Yeah, but that was also talked about it too, is that there's, I forget what they call it, but Bernie Sanders, you saw that Bernie Sanders has got that bill coming out that he wants everybody, including Elon Musk and Sam Altman, who years ago said we need this bill, which is basically, you know, the rumor has it, it's going to negate federal taxes. Basically what we pay in federal taxes this bill will drive it down to a point that at some points, some people might never have to pay federal taxes ever again.
Right. Well, Bernie Sanders, is proposing some version of guaranteed basic income to be paid for by the money being made off of AI that is going to be replacing people's jobs. And, you know, that it might be years away and everything, and it's a great conversation to have. But when has Congress ever approved any bill that Bernie Sanders, you know, has ever?
The conversation is open. I think that's the look. I remember the first time I heard universal income, and I was like, oh, that's genius. And then I remember 3 months later reading and following up on it, going, this is a little perverted, and then getting a year or so out and going like, this is probably not working. And then the test subject from the 2 towns or something that they gave each person $1,000 a month and everything actually ended up showing that the value of the community increased by like 33% or something, because most people were spending 800 of that money back in their community in various ways and stuff.
Right. Well, if you give poor people free money, they're going to spend it on rent, milk, you know, basic necessities. You know,
I understand all this. Everybody understands that how even Social Security was like such a very, very negative thing in the way of our country trying to get on board with it. But, you know, you got to start somewhere. The conversation has to be, you know, placed out there, and then things have to happen. You know what I mean? Like you've got to test it. You got to show,
Yeah,
you got to prove, you got to prove how much it is or isn't of increasing the value of people's lives.
Yeah, I know. Well, you know, and so if we're basically just descending now into a debate on guaranteed basic income,
No,
you know,
no, I don't want to.
Right, because
that's not what I want to do.
what
I want to be more. I'm way more structured in my frame of mind, I should say, is all the moving pieces aren't there yet. So any kind of like fear and prediction is not on any kind of like equal footing. It's all science fiction, in my opinion. So until things actually start solidifying, in other words, we actually start moving out of this age into the next age, all of this is just bullshit. It's just bullshit, waste of time talking, because nothing's happened. Nothing is happening.
We're building trillions of dollars worth of data centers in order.
I'm not building any $1 trillion worth of data centers.
Yes, we are, and the government, the current administration is right now proposing to take an ownership stake in the quantum computing industry,
which is probably a good idea.
I don't know about that, you know, maybe.
Yeah, but once again, how are we going to do that? How are we going to know if it's good or not unless we're on the other side of the fence? We can't maintain this colonial, imperial, federal structure in our society. It's run out. That's the thing I think is most proven right now. It's all run out. It's all run out.
Nothing's changing.
Exactly. That's exactly
it's
what I'm
just
saying.
Getting more and
Nothing
more
has changed. We've been living under this 2 years of the imminent change that's going to happen with AI, and socially we're not experiencing anything other than more like amplification on.
No, we are. Socially, we're seeing there was a headline that said, was it Stanford? One of these big. I tweeted it in one of my other accounts, but one of the biggest computer science departments. I don't know if it was MIT or Stanford. They're seeing a huge failure rate right now. Like, you know, it went from like 11% to like 30-something%, which is a big deal. And they said the reason why is because everybody was using AI for their assignments, and when it came time for the final, they didn't know the material. And that's where we are. And so this is only the first year or two. Imagine what's going to be 5 years from now, you know, and and so, you know, and of course,
but like 5 years from now, you're going to be outside the educational system, probably.
Well, there's still going to be an educational system, right? I'm not talking about.
I don't even believe there is one right now. I think the educational system is the biggest joke running. To call itself educational, it's babysitting.
It's more than that.
We're the dumbest people. We're the most the wealthiest of countries in the world, right? Yet we are calibrated as the dumbest. Like you take everybody that's in first world class living standards, and we're at the bottom of that list. Explain that to me. It's the educational system.
Because when they say we're the richest country, it's misleading. That would be our billionaire class, and we get averaged in so that we disappear. It's like saying if I went into an elevator with Mark Zuckerberg, the average income of that elevator would be $50 billion, but I have zero and he's got $100 billion. So that's the way that they use averages and statistics to make it sound like we're the richest country in the world. Actually, like 60% of our population is $400 away from bankruptcy. So, you know, it's you got to watch out, because there's forces, you know, that are trying to tell us one thing, and you know, it's the same forces that are helping the status quo, or making the status quo even worse than it was. And so we have all this stuff going on, and AI is a really 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 big shift coming in. Just like the internet was a really big shift coming in, and before that, it was industrialization, or the idea of the mass production or television, like all these big things that come along and they change stuff. So um, when it comes to schools, right, there's no, I mean, you might say there's a lot of problems with education. I see it firsthand every day. But there's no way, there's no reality where AI is going to fix that. AI can only make it worse.
Oh, I agree. I agree 100%, my friend.
Right. But
in the school system, AI in the school system, that's where it fails. Like that's the biggest. I think that's going to be the biggest bottleneck in our growth, as human beings, and our development as human beings in this country or any country that thinks using AI in the industrialization of teaching, the structure of that is going to help anybody. It's a joke. And you'll watch everybody go into homeschooling because then they'll have their kids on their own machines.
Well, that's what you saw Melania Trump trot out. She walked out of the White House with a robot, and she went into this speech about how everybody should get ready for a future where you don't send your kid to school. Instead, your child is going to be trained and have all of his questions patiently answered by this clunky robot.
But here's the thing, Jake. Here's the thing. Yeah. Okay, and this is one of the reasons I love Gemini. Is this whole OBS thing we're experiencing right now is totally in alignment with me confessing how much I do and don't understand about it. Based on my experiences with Riverside, literally sat there and in no formal structure whatsoever, my friend. No written formal structure, just, my friend Jake, here's a link to our YouTube channel. We've been doing this for 4 years, and but we're running into a struggle. Here's a link to Riverside. This is what we've been trying to do, blah, 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 blah. And all I've done up to this point is chat with that robot. Now, this was the even better part when I learned to take screenshots of the errors. Like you get that big error that comes up, like, oh, you haven't locked into blah, blah, blah thing, or this thing is not aligned with this thing. And I'm like, well, I don't know. Where is this? There's a million places I can go to. Took a shot of it, uploaded it, said, here's a screenshot. This is the error, and this is what I'm trying to accomplish. Boom, just like, brrr, boom. Oh, okay. Went on there. Oh, wow. Look, now I get that now. Now all I have to do is keep doing it by the motor skill learning process. I don't have to keep showing up to the same class, looking at the same stupid old face, telling me like, you can't do it that way. You have to do it this way. It's the most frustrating and infuriating thing to think that you're going to stick this mega brain, this thing that's smarter than any and all of us together in a classroom and then surround it with educators that are going to then teach people how to use it. That's insane. That is so fucking insane. And backwards.
Couple of things. Frank Zappa said long ago, I think I mentioned this in like a week ago, but Frank Zappa said, if you want an education, go to a library. If you want to get laid, go to a college, right? Yeah. The information has always been there in book form, and then in the age of the internet, it's always been there in internet form. So you can get the equivalent of a master's degree in any subject, and you always could, just by being studious enough and going to the library, reading every book, going to lectures, asking questions, writing letters, whatever. You could always do this out of school. That was never the point for the masses. The point for the masses is to socialize children into an institution where you're going to have a lot of interaction with other people. You're going to chat. You're going to see people that are not like you. You're going to see lots of challenging things, and you're going to have to, navigate, people that you don't agree with, people that you do agree with. All of this. 12 years of this conditioning, and that's more valuable than any, date that you're going to learn about the American Revolution. It's human socialization, and it's the number one thing that parents were complaining about during the pandemic. When their kid was learning remotely, and they were really pissed off, that they had to babysit their own kid, and they were their skin was crawling. They couldn't wait. They said, open up the schools. I don't care who dies, right?
Yeah, I do remember. I remember.
I mean, Texas had about 50 more students die than New York because they opened the schools that much earlier. And when they were confronted with that, they said it was worth it.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, so that's where we are. But in school, I can tell you in middle school, elementary school, there's always going to be that nerdy kid that does all the work, and they have an inherent love of learning. And then there's going to be the other 25 kids in the class that have to be handheld through the entire process, and they have to be reminded every single minute of every single day, you have an assignment due. If you don't do it, you're not going to get a good grade. If you don't do some work, I have to call your house.
If you don't do it, you're not going to get your paycheck at the end of the day. That's really
right.
what the condition is all about.
That you need to be self-sufficient, otherwise you're going to be a drain on society. Not
only a drain on society, is you're going to be unemployable. And the problem with that is the unemployable is where we've been way before AI, way before any of this technological advancement. But the biggest fear that everybody has right now, including the people making the AIs, is we're not smart enough to fucking deal with it. we're not ready. We're not ready to be smarter. Because we have all this stupid ass identity politics and, who's going to get this? And why do these people have more than me? And the government should step in, and, there should be these kinds of rules, and somebody needs to watch these people because they're not the shadiest, and da-da-da-da. And that just slows everything the fuck down. While meanwhile, people are building their own AIs in their home. Literally.
Well, yeah,
and they're going to be able to plug them into, if not already, onto the internet, and we'll start doing some of the craziest shit. It's already happening right now. And when young people as old as 6th and 7th graders are having more contact with those kinds of things, you guys are all just going to be standing around going, well, you shouldn't do that because. Well, and that's not how you teach people. That's not the education.
People that are downloading their own AI in their own home is 0.01% maybe of the population.
I really disagree with you.
I mean, what's going to be more? One of those people is going to make a company, and they're going to try to turn.
They're all already doing it right now.
Right. Well, I'm saying the first person that's going to turnkey school, to a parent and say, all right, I built everything for you, and here it is. It's gonna either look like a puck that's gonna sit on the counter and talk to your kid, or it's gonna look like an automaton, that can follow the kid into one room and the other.
I think it really does come down to our fear is so much based on somebody being smarter than us and more financially successful than us. And I believe the educational system is one to try to make some sort of like moralistic division and help young people see people if they're different in a different way and mitigate this. Wonderful. That's wonderful. I learned more, though, being a busboy at a country club in one summer than I had done all in 12 years of my educational system. And it came on to me fast.
Yeah, but the problem with like people outside education that think they know what works inside of education
No,
I mean,
I don't know. I will not sit here, Jake, and say I know how to do your job, and I think
but
I know what you can do better. I just know what's happening is not
no, I'm
working.
talking about myself. Before I became a teacher, I really thought that I knew, what should be different because I knew what worked for me. And when I got my master's, and then when I started teaching for about 10 years, I realized it doesn't matter, even if that did work for you, because everybody's different in a million different ways, and that you'll never be able to quantify that in any product, in any kind of verticalization or any kind of automation. And we've been banging our heads against the wall with this ever since Google Docs came out, ever since the standardized test came out, ever since the textbook came out, right? It's like, well, this works for 60% of the kids, but the other 40% of the kids, right? Like, with this doesn't work for a kid who's dyslexic. This doesn't work for, a kid who's 3 grades behind. Like, this doesn't. So, the problem is you need a school with a whole bunch of trained adults figuring out, all right, how do we get this kid to pass 6 classes? That's what that's what the good part of school is. That, and it's controlled at the local level so that it's responsive to the parents who vote in the school board election, and all these kind of things. And we've had all these billionaires. Bill Gates has been doing this for 20 years, to try to say, well, all we have, he had thousands of hours of videotape recorded for high quality, effective teachers. And he thought that you can turn around and train all the other teachers, or that you could, or that you could inform some kind of, white paper. But what he didn't realize is that there's 100 million kids that are all different. You need to videotape 100 million kids and then figure out 100 million different ways where they can be different. And that's why everything that Bill Gates has put into education, which is a lot, the Common Core, No Child Left Behind, charter schools, it's all, these billionaires, it's all failed. It hasn't moved the needle at all, and we're still just banging our head against, they just keep thinking that there's some way you can cut corners, and we can just say, all the kids are going to do one curriculum, or all we need is to just get AI, and then it'll answer all the questions. It's never going to be anything like that. There's no shortcuts, because every kid that comes in every year is going to present some different challenge that you haven't thought of. And so when it comes to the institution of school, I don't, there's a big parent backlash right now that's only growing, and there's a lot of affluent parents in Westchester and Long Island that are pulling their kids out of public schools and putting them in a Catholic school or a religious school because they don't have any screens, and or maybe it's a private school and they have, like, the whole kinder, gentler, touchy-feely thing, form of education. But they don't want. But at the end of the day, they don't want screens in school. And I think the more parents learn about it, the more they're going to back off from even the crap that we have from 3 years ago. So there's AI is great. The Pope even said so. There's a million different reasons why it's great, but the problem is who controls it. What is the bias?
The people who make it. The people who make it. That's who's going to control it.
Yeah,
I don't understand that state. Who's going to control it? I mean, if you think the federal government's going to be able to step in, they're already 2 fucking years late.
Well, if they're gonna take an AI product and put in school, then it's going to be subject to oversight.
You can't tell me there isn't 35 companies right now that are vying for school contracts, whether they're state, federal.
I can tell you all about that.
Yeah, exactly.
I can tell you all about that.
And all it will take is one that'll create some kind of sense of success, because that's all that it's going to be about. And then everybody else is going to start mapping in. They're going to cash in.
Well, right now you have a petition circulating in New York City telling Mayor Mamdani to institute a 2-year moratorium on AI in elementary schools, because it is the question of inaccuracy and who controls it. But even bigger, right now is the question of that. Even if AI does exactly what it's supposed to do, it is offloading the cognition that the student is supposed to go through, especially the younger students themselves, in order to develop their brain and their capability of thinking. And that's going to be replaced. That is being replaced right now. And so there's thousands of parents that I know that signed this petition that are saying Mayday, Mayday. I'm taking my kid out of that. It's really interesting to see because the New York City school system just backed off, and the AFT, which is the American Federation of Teachers, the biggest national teachers union, just backed off. And that doesn't mean these contractors aren't still lobbying and holding these Las Vegas expos and everything, and inviting all the principals out and whining and dining, because that was just in the Post the other day, and and you know how much the ticket is? They just had this expo. I'll show you on my phone. Look, they just had this the New York Post just had this headline, and the New York Post is always out to get the schools and the unions and everything, but they just had this expo, and I'll show you right here. It's called the Arizona State University and the GSV, which is like the Global Solutions Venture Summit. It was in April. AI is for everybody, and look what it says here. This is what I screen capped. AI is for everybody, and the first button was there: early childhood and pre-K to 12. Right? It's like they want them as young as possible. So when the New York City officials went out there, they all just got called out for attending this because the tickets to this thing was like $5,000.
Trying to get the school system to reimburse them for it.
Well, the school system did pay apparently, and that's what the Post was trying to figure
that's
out.
Awesome.
It's
that's
like,
awesome.
How did we pay for these guys to go to this summit, and it's $5,000 to attend? I mean, this is crazy stuff. And then
do you believe fundamentally education is point A to point B in learning?
What do you mean by that?
Well, you set up. I'm at a point A. You set up point B, and you help guide me from point A to point B. Do you believe that's the fundamental principle in education?
There's a big fight over what the fundamental principle of education is right now, and and it's not really a lefty righty thing. Well, it is more of a lefty righty thing, but the right, including the center right, believes that the purpose of school is to prepare students to work in a job, and the jobs are increasingly working for a giant corporation. So how to survive and manage within a corporate framework of doing what you're told, getting a paycheck, and increasing your viability by increasing your marketable skills so that you're more attractive to that corporate employer. And it could be in a rural area, it might be preparing for a farm, or in a oil mining town, it might be preparing for those oil mining jobs. But there's definitely a school of thought that is saying that we need to prepare these kids for the jobs of the future. They use language like that. The other side of the coin, which is more like your kind of like humanitarian, that's looking really good, by the way. The other side of the coin is like, you're looking at this. No, we're preparing kids in training them in all of the humanities to be a critical thinker and to be a self-advocate and to be able to spot, people that are trying to exploit you, and to be an entrepreneur, and to do to be independent, to push back, to question things, to never accept, what you're told, always, look at the trailblazers, in history and all that kind of stuff. So back and forth they go. And and it depends who is in power in any given year, but we literally have every 4 years when we have a new president, we literally have them deballing the entire Department of Education, and then the next guy comes in and they'll just refund, this and that, and we're going to concentrate on civil rights, or we're going to concentrate on early childhood literacy. And so we have this system, where it's democratic, but it just keeps ping-ponging back and forth.
Well, it's because the constituent is able to get their person and persons, in that position of power, and then those changes. But like you said, though, it's like, for 4 years we had to live under this, but then once they're out, then we had to go either back or have some other, because the constituency and they're in the democratic process, it wins again.
Right, but the elected officials are only the puppets. The real movers and shakers are the billionaires who never change. Sure. They've been there for 20 years. And whether it's what Bill Gates has just decided to get really into education, but it's also Bloomberg and
why why, right?
Yeah, because they want to marketize it. They want to commodify it.
Yeah, I mean that's the financial reason, but one of the biggest conversations I've been following is there are not enough people of interest or intelligence in order to move into the next phase of technology. There's not. They said out of everybody graduating, this is Jensen Huang from NVIDIA, and he was saying how people are, he said, and I'm paraphrasing, but he was just like, can everybody just shut up about people losing jobs? There's like $9 trillion worth of work out there right now because there was only 40,000 graduates that are capable in this country by the educational system, the college educational system, in order to move healthily into technology, coding, as maybe more specific, coding, and navigate the industry once inside. 40,000 people.
That's basically what I was saying, that the point of education is to train kids for the jobs of the future, right? And these companies are self-interested. I mean, in fact, Bill Gates, he's like, I need, in 30 years from now, I need some really good coders. So, he started something called New Vision.
Needs them now. Everybody needs, and it's not the quote unquote coding. It's not like it is the physical act of coding, but it's how, it's my next to not being able, I am the shittiest musician in the world. Once again, I have there's just the way I'm made up. It's not something I can be taught, because trust me, I've gone through many, many, many situations. But my second most regret by my DNA design is not being able to hold and grok computer technology, specifically coding. And I left, Jake, it's documented in my life. I left in 2001 too. Flash/action dynamic HTML, and everything worked out. It wasn't a grand mistake, but I really do look back and say, man, if I stuck it out, which I don't know how much longer I would have, but B, if I had a better brain, or a brain that was better designed for, it's like grokking it is like the being able to hold on to things and then use them as tools in your brain and your thinking process. I would just be in a different place creatively, but that's just my bane of existence. So, but imagine because of the cost of education going into colleges, imagine the bizarre navigation, in my opinion, of just public school systems. How many people are lost, probably hundreds of thousands of people just in this country alone, to not actually be given the proper path of encouragement in order to become those future technicians. And I believe that is fundamentally the issue that we're in globally, in everybody saying we got to put a halt on AI. Yeah, it's because we don't have enough people that comprehend it. And it's just not fair to society to just turn it on and watch all the fireworks and beautiful things come our way, because we all
Well,
know that's not how it works.
yeah, but you're talking. Both of us are talking as somebody that whose brains developed traditionally with pen
Yeah,
and paper,
yeah, yeah.
and then AI comes along and we say, "Oh, I can adapt to this." You know, my brain works perfectly. You know, but if a kid is doing AI from day one, their brain is going to need the AI. So once the AI is not there, no brain.
Yeah, but it's not. It doesn't have to be all AI. You can set up quote unquote art programs or creative programs in such a way that it does teach like creative problem solving. Like it really does give people the opportunity to see more
They're going to ask AI.
possibilities. No, but
That's happening
but
already.
it
I
is.
feel it with
It is.
myself.
But if everybody's asking AI and AI is giving everybody the same answer, people will start one by one. People start standing up and saying, "Nah, I want to do something differently." And then they will find a different way of solving the problem. And hence, these are the people that then invent whole industries.
Right, but we can figure out a way around it, right? Like I used AI the other day. I asked, how do I set this thermostat? I sent it a picture of the thermostat. If I wouldn't have
Yeah.
known that, I would have had to Google it and find the PDF and go to the
Yeah.
page,
Yep. I
right?
was just, yep.
So,
Yep. Yep.
so it's AI is the perfect complement to our short attention span, our
Yep.
need
Yep.
for immediacy, and our, every human frailty that you can imagine, that they could exploit, and ingratiate themselves as a tool that becomes indispensable, so that they can make a lot of money. And it's a recipe for disaster. I'm telling you, on the developmental level, those kids have to figure life out, and then maybe use some AI, later on. But if we substitute that, we're just going to be making AI humans that are no longer functional without the AI. And and you could see it, you could feel it happening with yourself. I feel it all the time, and my brother feels it all. I see my brother all the time. He's just reaching for Alexa every time he has a question, and it is so useful, so convenient, and it's so alluring that you can never go back. So it's a real hazard society wise. And these big billionaires who are self-interested, and they want to get this trained force, because they're going to be the next generation of coders for their company. That's what they were doing for the last 20 years. That's why we have standardized tests. The quick story is, like, standardized test isn't so that everybody can go home and have a grade, and the parents can know where your kid is sitting, compared to everybody else. Standardized tests were initially developed so that they could identify who was going to be qualified to make decisions under pressure and become the air fighters in World War II. They developed a standardized test that they knew it was not going to be able to be finished on time. And they found, like, the 6 or 7 candidates out of 100 that were actually able to ace that. And they put them in the training program to be fighter pilots who can make incredibly difficult decisions under, tight, deadlines and everything. That's what the standardized test was first developed for. So, they've been using that, and they're like, we don't care who gets a 1, 2, and 3. We're really looking for those 4s, and we're going to be tracking them throughout their life. Because we're going to be trying to, hire them immediately out of grad school, or immediately out of, this coding program, or immediately out of this program, because they can do something that nobody else can do. They're the one, the 1% of all the people that we give these thousands and thousands of kids. We give this test. They're the top of the top. And so, there's a lot of self-interest in there that is really just towards, being able to solidify their position in a marketplace as opposed to helping society in any way, helping the overall, or helping, God forbid, the least among us, the kids with struggles and everything. Like, where's a program for that, So, it's, the conspiracy is always the same. It's just, money, people are just conspiring to get as much money as
Money.
they can.
What is it for?
Money, power, authority, bias. Yeah, I mean, some people are like, all right, I'm a multi-billionaire. Now what do I want to do? Well, I want to support Israel, or I want to support Catholics, or I want to support, whatever. So it's just giving inordinate power, and the AI is it's a real subversive, I think, weapon that's going to be used to make a docile society less independent, less critical thinking, less brain development, and less of everything, and and less jobs, and we're facing this cliff right now, where the big companies are trying right now. Can I get a humanoid robot in there instead? Like, these questions are being asked openly right now. God, thank God we're artists, but
That's funny to say. That is so funny to say. I feel that way 100%. Now, to dovetail that back to something you say all the time, and you haven't brought it up yet, I'm going to bring it up for you. Jay Jacobs is one of the coolest teachers you could have down in the school that you're and I know you work from this base. Like, your base is very much about, everybody equally getting the attention necessary, the tools, the education, so on and so forth. But my first teacher that opened not only my eyes but my parents' eyes was my third grade English teacher, when I did a 12-page 11 illustrations of the story called John Henry, right? So I knew I had learning challenges. I was understandable about that enough. So the school teacher says, "Now, Kurt, if you'd like to add an illustration, a drawing of John Henry, that would be great. But you still have to write, on that big line paper, right?" I literally wrote as far and as big as I could. John Henry was a steep dash eel driving and by Kurt Bruegel. Then put 11 drawings that illustrated the story I had comprehended, because he was like my first favorite superhero was John Henry, right? So we then that was like the end of the year, like final thing, and she kept them, and then all the parents had to go with their kids to like the end of the year's thing where you meet the teacher and stuff. But the teacher put the on our desks the final grade and everything, and then your parent would pick it up, and then eventually you would get in front of the teacher. Now mine wasn't on the table, and I remember my father sighing, going, "Here we go again." And my mother's like, "Shut up," And so, because I was always doing things way off the by design, you know what I mean, to try to get out of what everybody else had to do, because I have dyslexia and a learning disability. So she sees me, she keeps winking and said, "Oh, I'm going to be over there in a minute. Going to be over there in a minute." And so we wait. We're talking to other parents and friends, and of course the parents are like, "Oh, where's Kurt's
example?" Yeah.
Well, it was like a paper, his paper, and everything like that. Well, we're kind of waiting on it and everything. Like, "Oh, okay, what's going on?" So she finally comes up and she's like, "Oh, Mr. and Mrs. Bruegel, so happy to finally meet you. I know it's the end of the year and everything like that." And then she stopped, and then she like looked around, and then she waved to this guy that was basically the same age as her. And he like, "Oh, okay," he excused himself and he came over. and she pulled my, she had my paper, my 12-page illustrated story of John Henry, and said, I would like you guys to meet my husband, who is a book illustrator. And my parents were like, what? And he got down on his knees in front of me. He goes, Kurt, I have very, very rarely seen any talent come out of anybody that could graphically tell. Now, I'm putting words in his mouth because I had no idea what he was telling. I was like, my mother, my father, and I all had the same expression on our faces, which is like, what the fuck is going on, right? And he goes, look, we don't have a lot of time or anything, but I want to invite you to this drawing class, which is an open adults drawing class down at the local, community center. And I really think this would help you, hone your skills in. Here's my number. We'll get in contact and we'll set it up. From third grade on, I was always, my parents got it. Like she held that paper back because she wanted that event to be, as it has been, earth-shattering for me and my parents. My parents, I think, then had a sigh of relief, like, oh, he's an artist. That's why he thinks and does things the way he does. Oh, well, we need to start figuring out what that means. And, anytime we took family vacations, there'd be an art museum involved, or those types of things. But my point being, it took an English teacher in the third grade to have a husband who was a professional book illustrator to basically point me in my direction. And I believe that's what you do. And I believe that's what,
Don't you have one teacher in third grade? You had separate teachers for English?
Yeah, I personally had I was taught in separate kind of categories because my they called it was just dyslexia is a learning disability, but I had it like twofold. So yeah, I had to kind of like jump around because then I would have a specific math or science class and the such. So yeah, and it was a very progressive. This was in Texas in the late 70s, and it was the first state to test children on their educational abilities at like second and third grade. And if there was a learning disability, like all my classes were based on visual identity and identifiers. So that's why when people talk to me or force me to read something, there's no sinking point. I need illustration. I need pictures, or it will not stick. And it's probably why like trying to learn music or coding is so difficult, is because there's not really a visual element like pictures or animations or television involved. And I just can't grasp it. And that's just the way my brain's formed, But, it all goes all the way up to my high school teacher, Jim Thompson, who still comes into Trader Joe's, still finds my wife, and he says how proud he is of me as one of his students, and the fact that I painted all the murals in the store. And, I've taught these classes. He used to stop by at the art centers, and track me down. And he was the one that said, Kurt, I don't think you should go to the Army. I think you should go to an art school. And I was like, what's an art school in 11th grade? And ended up at the Maryland Institute College of Art, where I really do believe for the rest of my life it went on. And once again, the reason I say that, I tell this, is because I believe, you're that teacher to hundreds of children out there, maybe not on the grand scale of like they become famous and recognized as artists and stuff, because how many people do, and what does that really mean? But they have a personal achievement in feeling successful, as I do, and I would love to find, for the life of me, my parents can't find any of the documentation from back then or anything to find that woman's name or who the artist was or whatever. So, because I would love to just thank them, because that to me is really what education is for a guy like me.
Everybody has their story about the teacher that made a difference. Everybody has stories about teachers that that weren't good. But if you figure if you're going to have 4, 5, 6 teachers every semester, that somebody's going to give you some worthwhile instruction or information or just life guidance. And that's something that I don't know if AI is going to be able to replace that. But we all have that story. In fact, when you become a teacher, the first thing they tell you on the first day is like write that essay. Who was that one teacher that made the difference?
Right.
And they want everybody to be that one teacher, right?
Yeah.
And I mean, I could also talk about teachers that used to go to the bar at lunchtime.
I can too.
We won't talk about that. So yeah, so school is a place where you find other people, you learn your place in a community of people where there's a lot of different types of people doing a lot of different types of things. And maybe it takes a while before you find your area of where you're everybody
where you'll thrive.
Everybody's got strengths, and everybody and the funny thing is, like, it might not even be in school where this happens for a lot of kids.
Right.
It might be much later. A lot of people go back and forth. I mean, I could tell you, because my specialty is bringing kids to art high schools and trying to see if they can get accepted to a decent art high school that could make a difference in your life, right? And they're like, right until the last day, like right now, my 8th graders, we have some of them that have an offer to a specialized art school, and they can't make up their mind if they want to go there or not. And some of them they just want to follow their friends, and some of them are just, they're not sure if they have it in them, or some of them are, they want to do academics and, all kinds of different stuff.
Do I really want to be that poor all my life?
Well, in this upcoming future that we're talking about, I don't know if it's going to be that question versus, some other question, like, do I really want all of my artwork to be spidered for free by AI? And
all it takes is somebody to come walking into your art show in a gallery and take a picture of it and post it on social media. So there's no escaping it. So you need to get over it,
unless the AI companies were forced to compensate, as they said they were going to originally.
Right.
So there's that. But yeah, I don't hold my breath for that happening.
No, not either.
At all.
I don't either. Don't worry about it.
Yeah. So
But hey, look, where are we at? Oh, we're still rocking. Everything seems to be stable. I need to jump out real quick because I got to look for a pen I'm missing. I don't know quite where it is.
All right, I'm gonna get my comics together, my haul together for this week. So.
Okay.
Okay. As a matter of fact, if you want, I can just start that now and get into it.
Go for it. Go for it.
All right. Let's see what we got here. What do we got for this week? Let me close this, and we'll move this camera down. Kurt, did you say you needed to center me in order to do this? I don't know if Kurt can hear me. We're also going to read some IMs. This is a Skywalking Marek. Hello, Skywalking Marek. Feel free to chime in and plug whatever you're working on. And if you're not a comic book creator, then plug whatever you feel like. Say I'm a pipe fitter, or I am a truck driver, whatever. But good to see you jumping on board today. Kurt, I don't know if you can hear me, but I think you said you needed to switch something so that I could be full screen or something.
I'm back.
Did you say you needed to switch something so I could be full screen?
I don't have that capability right now. That's what I'm saying. Like, all I've learned is the what we have is the like kind of like homepage scene. But I will next week. No, we're not meeting next week. We'll meet on that Juneteenth. But during that time, I am going to look to kind of figure that part out. It's on my list of what more to figure out about OBS Studio.
All right. Well, let's see what we got here. So, Eclipse Comic, New York, Year Zero, number 2. The cover artist looks like the name is T. Yeater. This looks like a familiar pose. I don't know if I've seen this pose somewhere else, but this is 1988. Eclipse Comics was being edited by Catherine Ironwood back then. And this is Story Barrero, art Juan Zanotto. And so I'm guessing that this is brought over from Europe. As a matter of fact, this artist looks like the same artist as Cat Claw. I don't know if this is the same artist.
Oh yeah, no, I know exactly who that is.
Yeah, Zanotto.
Yeah. Oh yeah, he's one of my favorites. He did a series of like post-apocalyptic. Oh, you ever heard of like YOR? It's a really crappy B movie, straight to VHS, and it's he does a lot of like stories, comic book stories that start like in primitive, barbaric states, and as they move along, they end up meeting an alien or a far more advanced culture. And Yor is sort of like the prophecy, type of person, or the females that he has. Yeah, really great guy, really great illustrator. Look at that inking though. I mean, that's the thing. Like, god damn.
And the architect and rendering. Now they're calling this New York, but I'm not feeling New York here. I mean, I guess this is the dystopian future or something.
Yeah.
But really nice sci-fi stuff, and I don't know about the writing. Is this the artist of Cave Woman by any chance?
Cave Woman? No, that's Bud Root.
Oh, okay. So this looks like a good pickup. This is number 2, so I'd pick these up. I don't know how many of these they made. The cover looks like a slightly different guy, different style, and I don't think they credit.
That's not the same guy. They did that a lot. They did that a lot where they would just use an American artist to do the cover and then just license the European art and then have somebody translate it from, I think it was originally done in Spanish or Italian. He's Spanish, but all the best comics in the 70s were coming out of Italy. So
I don't know if this character is this character. She looks like she's blonde on the cover. And this is great. This is great heavy metal style.
Yeah.
Euro art circa 1988. Some ads here in the back. Dishman. I don't know if this ever came out. The Mundane Adventures of Dishman. Here they have Zorro by Alex Toth, The Classic Adventures of Zorro, and here Miracle Man Book 3, Chapter 5, Nemesis, Alan Moore and John Totalbin. And so I always look at the ads because I'm always on the lookout. And look at this. Zen and the Art of Space Adventure, Fusion, bi-monthly from, I've never seen that one. Looks like animal anthropomorphs with humans. And then here they're selling Dave Stevens posters. You could get 8 great posters, $5 each, or all 8 posters for $35 from Dave Stevens. And it doesn't say how big they are. And that's very suspicious. Right? Wouldn't you want to know how
18 by 24 would be the standard. You are right though. That could be like you got like like a 8, I don't know, 12 by 18 or something like that.
I don't recognize. I've never seen any of these posters. They look cool. All right. Anyway, what else we got? So this is Cape City by Dimension X Comics, premiere issue. I had a feeling this was going to be a power comic, but I don't know. The cover is like an example in bad Photoshop, if you ask me. Like all of this is just using the airbrush tool really nakedly, and when you see that, it's just a dead giveaway that you're using, you know, just red airbrush or a red brush tool on Photoshop. Yeah. Let me see if we get a fix. I don't know if I could get rid of this glare at all here. All right. Um, so yeah, what is this? The premiere issue. This is a very heavy embossed cover. So, somebody really invested, but Dimension X, not just another universe. This is 1993. Office of publication is in Somerdale, New Jersey. Lions Head Plaza. Story and art copyright. So it looks like Chuck Spratlin. And it says story, pencils, ink, other stuff. He's the publisher. He's everything. So it sounds like Dimension X is Chuck Spratlin. And here's the comic. So I'm looking at the font. It's Tecton. So this was just typed out in 1993 and pasted down. The art is a little bit cartoony, and and grayscale, and they're probably grayscaled in Photoshop. So probably doing some line art. Looks like he used marker for rather than pen and ink. I'm guessing.
It's like a late '90s book.
1993,
Whoa,
and
early.
nothing's really grabbing me here. We're standing around, but they're doing some kind of investigation. Let's see if there's anything interesting here in the ads. So they're plugging coming this fall out of Dimension X, Styx, and Samson and Delilah. And it looks like another cartoony style and another cartoony style. Oh no, this is a little nicer. So story and art for Samson and Delilah is Jim Parks and Andrew Parks, exclusively licensed to Dimension X, a creator-oriented company. Styx is Robert Roman, a creator-owned company. Who knows if those things ever came out? Who knows? Yeah, this comic is not grabbing me. I'm going to move on from this comic. Sorry about that, but Cape City didn't really grab me. I don't know what it's about. I'm flipping through it. Story didn't grab me. See if there's any interesting ads in the back. Book signing, Adventure Comics. So this is real local comic store appearances. Coming at you in 30, Cape City #2. Who knows if that actually came out. Cool t-shirts. So they got some t-shirts printed. He had the whole thing going on. Dimension X had 3 titles. They had t-shirts. They had appearances. Here you can get a subscription. A 1-year subscription is $30, or you can get a 2-year subscription. Do you think it lasted 2 years? Here's the Daily Tattler. So this is just a filler page, and then here is a filler page. Looks like the same artist, and then some more filler stuff in the back. So I think I'm gonna reuse this bag and board for something else. All right. DC Showcase presents The Spectre, a 12-cent comic. So I'm guessing 1968. I don't know, maybe. Let's see. Not in the greatest shape. Otherwise, it'd be a lot more money. Oh, Kurt, I gotta bring something up to you.
Yep.
Yeah, yesterday I had some folks over. I was actually hosting a business meeting in my house. Oh, look at this story, Gardner Fox. Art, Murphy Anderson. The Spectre, Ghost of Ace Chance. So this comes out in 1966. Showcase number 64, featuring the Spectre. Yeah, I had some dudes in my house. I was like facilitating a business deal for some friends. Oh, look at this art. This is good. And the one guy that was over had this app, and I think it was called Comic Snap, and it purports to scan your comic All you gotta do is put your comic in the frame and then hit the button, take a picture of it, and then it scans it, including the title and everything and the condition, and then it purports to tell you a range of what it's worth. And
I thought it was going to read it for me.
yeah, that's in the yeah, this is a nice comic here. So we did this. So I brought out a box of comics, and the guy was doing this for a lot of my comics, and you know that I bought these comics for less than $1, but some of them were coming up as, you know, purportedly being worth $4 or $5, some up to 10. I mean, they gave you a range because obviously they can't tell the whole condition of the inside and everything. But they, you know, they're purportedly being able to tell you, you know, based on the condition. Because when we put a crappy water damage one in there, you know, it gave an appropriate price for that. But I went and looked up, where is this app Comic Snap getting its prices? And it's controversial, you know. And so there is a YouTube video on it, which I didn't see, but the quick Gemini answer was that it scans completed items on eBay.
Yep.
And I said, well, isn't that interesting? Because you remember that piece we had last week where the railroad train on it, that 1950 comic I had?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, there's no completed items on eBay for that. And it told me that the range of it told me that comic was worth $10 to $50. You know,
well, that's from prior sales. It's from prior sales that it documents.
But I looked on eBay myself. There was no prior sales. There are no prior sales.
No, because of that app and also scraping about 5 years ago, like you used to be able to go back years and look at previous sales, and they took them all down. So they every 6 months, if you
eBay only shows you 90 days, but the app claims that it only looks back 90 days. And they might do that.
I don't know. Yeah. And that's shady. I'm not trying to. Yeah.
I'm saying, right? Because if they do scrape values, like, number one, how do you do that? How can you possibly scrape all of eBay's values for every listing?
It's easy. It's easy.
No, I think you have to. I mean, maybe if somebody puts a picture of the comic, and then you go on eBay, and then you click completed items, and then you gather all that and you scrape all that and you keep it in a database somewhere, maybe that can happen. But if you know, how do they know about every comic that's in eBay's database?
But there's supposedly also Heritage. Is it Heritage? Hip Comics? There's a whole bunch of other people that are involved in that too. Because eBay has just, you know, been recognized as the most obvious place to buy and sell comics. So the value of them would be pretty up to date by getting data from them.
Well, yeah, eBay it's the most obvious marketplace because any Tom, Dick, and Harry can put a comic up on there, and also dealers put comics up there, and stores put comics up there, and, you know, people spend all day putting eBay. Like, you might have a company that has a person that just sticks stuff on eBay. So, you know, it's, you know, they call eBay the great equalizer for that reason, because, you know, somebody could just find something on eBay. But yeah, but I don't know. I'd like to know if any of our listeners, anybody seeing this, has any experience with the app Comic Snap, because, you know, for like an old lady that has a comic collection and doesn't know what it's worth, if she downloads that app, you know, she might think, oh, I can get $4 a piece for this, when they're really only worth $1.
But it's only suggested. Yeah, but that's the point. Like, so a book just came up on eBay from one of my save searches, and it's one of these old late 60s vintage paperbacks. And, you know, these types of books usually go for, they post between $10 to $20, $5 shipping and handling, which is media mail, right? So yeah. I always put they always put best offer on there, always. So I always, this one was for $10. I went and put it for $5, right? And it got rejected, which is usually what happens because the person's like, it's worth $10. I'll have that book for $5 or less in a month, 2 months, unless somebody else comes along and sees the value in the book at $10. But I'm telling you right now, there's probably only like 23 people in the United States of America that would want that book.
Right.
So it's just who wants it, how bad do they want it, and what are they worth? What are they willing to pay for it? Because this is not a commodities race, right? It's just a luxury to having that book.
It's a keyword race.
Well, right? No, to want to own a comic.
Yeah, but whoever puts in the keyword and sits there waiting like you do, and then it pops up and the price is right. Now you can grab it. It's so eBay is a great tool for that, to find something that you and just lay in wait.
But that
right?
person who believes it's worth $10 is going to hold on to that book for as long as they can, which is usually about a month to 2 months, because they might be volume-wise moving through large amounts of books. So if it's still there a month later, they might say, screw it. Somebody did want to get it for $5. I'll drop it to $7. It'll tell me it's dropped to $7. I'll then ask for $3. They'll probably ask for $4. I'll pay for $4. So the value is not $10. Like that's not, the value is $4 when I get it.
Well, so he went through a whole box of comics, and then like he comes up with one hit, and it was like tour number 1 by Joe Kubert. He's like, this is worth $10 to $100. I'm like, well, that's a big range. Yeah. Right. So now I'm wondering, like, is there a difference between a first printing
and the condition?
Well, no, it's not just condition, because they scanning my condition, right? Because I put a,
oh, come on, is that really what they're telling you?
Yeah, we tried it out. I had a water damage. I had
you took more than one picture and close-ups of all the damage.
No, it only looks at the cover.
Yeah, so get out of here.
It only looks at the cover, and but there was a cover where the whole corner was water damaged and it was eaten away, and they said that comic was worth 35 cents, right? Which is right, because they saw the damage. So that's. Anyway, let's just put it this way. I have there's an app out, that is just saying point and shoot, and it'll give you, a value
suggestion.
Right. Well, there's going to be a lot of people that use that suggestion, or that use that, and it's a range, and they still have to decide. But, I don't know if those tools are helpful, because they give people a false sense of it's AI. It's all just AI. All right, so I got claw number 1, 25 cents. So this is cool. The first claw, and who's the artwork done by? Ernie Chua, written by David Michelini. So Ernie Chua is one of the great Filipino artists, right? That comes along, and they're very professional. They're hopefully.
But he's known for Conan. That was the Conan, one of the Conan ripoffs they were trying to get off the ground.
One of them is. So this could just as easily be a Conan story, but
yes.
DC was getting into the game.
But he's a cool character. Like issue 1, his origins is pretty, like, it's ballsy, man. Like the guy, I think the character, like he's not a very nice guy, so he gets captured by fellow mercenaries or bandits or something like that, and to like torture him or something. Which way?
The lonesome whine of an infant left near a stream against the heat of a summer's day. An infant with a most distinctive hand.
Oh, I'm thinking Iron Jaw. Sorry. I was thinking Iron Jaw. Go ahead.
Right. So, this is Claw. Yeah. Hush, child, fear not. So Claw is born with a little claw hand, I guess.
A serpent.
And I love Ernie. So Ernie Chua. So this is pencils and inks, and it doesn't even say that there's a colorist or a letterer here, which is weird. I don't know why they wouldn't do that. I'm sure he didn't do his the letters, but who did the colors, for Christ's sake? Claw the Unconquered. Yeah, I remember it. I mean, it's just another Conan rip. And then Beowulf was also another one. And then they had all the Mike Grell stuff. But this is funny. It looks like he might have been looking at a little bit of Frank Thorne, you know.
Could be. Yeah, I agree.
And yeah, these like this is a great example of how the colorist really just butchers the comic, man. These colors are just obnoxious. Ay ay ay. So who knows what could have been. But Claw number 1, yeah, this is good sword and sorcery stuff. What else do we got here? We got King Conan with a Barry Windsor cover. This is sorry. This is Severin. Why does this look like Barry Windsor? King Conan, and I'm just buying all the King Conans I can, especially if they're a buck. This is number 18, and it was $1 because it's super thick. I think all the King Conans were oversized.
Nah.
No?
No.
I got a couple that are oversized. Ooh, I lucked out. So I open it, and they were definitely channeling Barry Windsor Smith on this cover. It says Severin. That doesn't tell you which Severin it is. It could be Marie or John.
Yeah.
But when you get inside, Rudy Nebres art. He is my favorite. Speaking of the Filipino slate of artists, look at this twisted root that separates the top and the bottom, and how everything just blends into each other. Oh my God. Rudy Nebres was just a cut above. A pit. What scurvy? And then, oh wow, look at this. Stan Lee presents The Devil of Darfar. So I want to fault the colorist. I hate these colors. I really hate these colors. There's too many colors, number one. They kind of obscure things, down here. They make it turn it into mud. It doesn't say, again, who the letterer or the colorist is. Now, Kurt, there's no way that they make these poor Filipino guys do their own colors and letters, right?
Who knows?
But why don't they credit anybody?
Does it have a no, I don't think Nevers did
it just says
colors.
Rudy Nevers art.
Well, yeah. Maybe he did do the color guide. I mean, that's all he has to do is watercolor on his
but they always credit
copies
the
of his inks.
Doesn't matter. They still got to credit the colorist.
Okay.
So it's so weird. But this is just an action-packed Conan book, right? Tons going on here. And the story goes on. This is well longer than we're past like 20 pages. We're into 30 pages here. The story's just going on and on. Look at this. It just gets better and better. Right? And this colorist is butchering this. Oh, God. I don't know, man. So why are these Filipino guys having comics where there's no credit on the letters or colors? Multiple ones. And this thing is action-packed, man, from start to finish. Oh, here we go at the end. Joe Rosen, letterer, who is just a traditional Marvel guy. George Rosus, colorist. And then there's Jim Owlsley, Larry Hama, and Jim Shooter. So, yeah, I don't like it. So, George Russo, I don't like the job you did here, man. I don't like it. The cover has really nice colors, But there's a King Conan. This is definitely worth a read.
All right, we're coming up on the 1 o'clock mark. You got 5 more minutes, my friend, because I do have to jump out.
Well, this one I opened up before. It's a lurid comic from IDW, number 3, and it's called Busted. It looks like a real indie. IDW got a lot bigger. This is 2003. And this is when they had this logo. They have a much different logo now. So IDW has really grown and grown.
I thought IDW is out of business.
Are they out of business?
I don't
All
know.
right.
Maybe they got an injection of cash or something like that. But I thought they were
Ted
going
Adams.
bankrupt.
Publisher Ted Adams. All right. Well, interesting to know. I think I see stuff on the shelf from them still, but maybe it's just reprints or something. Anyway, this is Lurid, and it is a black and white, no gray toned comic here. And there's some kind of story. There's some violence here. There's dumpsters. There's topless ladies. There's light cursing, some kind of storyline, and strip clubs. But it's a little sparse. There is some action here, but there's a lot of talking and sitting around. Actually, there's not too much dialogue, and there's a pretty decent black and white balance. So that's Lurid, and the backup story is this guy, who you see him a lot in Cheval Noir.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know, and I don't know why they're sticking just a random backup story in here from him. I don't know what it's about. If it has anything to do with anything. And an ad for Popbot number 4 has a really big fight scene. There's an ad for CVO, Covert Vampiric Operations, IDW Publishing, and then an ad for Dark Days. Looks like more vampire stuff. 6-issue miniseries. I'll put these away for next time. I just want to go over this. I'll put this one back, Good stuff here. It's going back. We'll finish on this one. So, Bernie Wrightson's Captain Stern.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know why I love Bernie Wrightson so much and I hate Captain Stern so much.
Yeah, I don't get it either. I'm sorry.
So, Bernie Wrightson didn't do the art for the interior until you get to the back pages. And this is also only 12 pages. I'm holding a very thin comic in my hand. So this comes out from Kitchen Sink in 1993. And there looks like they're serializing Captain Stern. And this also looks like the sequences that we saw in the Heavy Metal movie for Captain Stern, right? Or at least it's similar settings. But then you have a couple of pages of that, full color, and you get to this part where it's actual Bernie Wrightson art. And it says, a glimpse of the original Captain Stern story featured in Heavy Metal in 1980. So this was actual Bernie Wrightson, and this was what was actually serialized in the Heavy Metal movie and in the Heavy Metal magazine. So we have 1, 2, 3 pages of that. So they're just like giving you a little teaser of that, and 9 pages of some other guy doing Captain Stern adventures. So I don't know. It's kind of disappointing to buy a comic that's only 12 pages, and kind of disappointing to get a story that's a Bernie Wrightson character, but it's not Bernie Wrightson art. But I still love Bernie Wrightson. So that is my report for this week. And I can move these comics. I only did a few today. I can move these comics from the right to the left, and I'm going to rebag. I'm going to use these bags for something else because some of these are not my favorite. I'll keep this one in a bag. Should Claw number 1 go back in a bag? I don't know. This is a real reader's copy, so I'm going to leave that one out. And I'm going to bag up something that needs a bag next time. Bag and a board. I think a bag and a board is worth about 30 cents now, right?
Bag and a board.
Right?
30 cents? I think $1.
For a bag and a board?
I think so, yeah.
Well, I mean, obviously it depends how many you're buying at once.
Right.
But if you're buying $1 comic and there's a bag and a board, then you're really only paying like 60 cents or 70 cents, because if you figure 30 cents of that is a bag and a board that I could reuse with something else, then even better. I mean, I'll admit I'm guilty of buying a comic just so I can get a bag and a board. Like if I see a cool comic for $1, I just put it on the pile. But if it doesn't have a bag and a board, I'll look for any comic that has a bag and a board and just buy that comic. So I'll say, yeah, I'm going to take the bag and the board out and put it on this one. And then, you can turn around and sell that other crappy comic.
Cool. All right. Well, we made it successfully. Other than me having to check the files and the final YouTube stream, but I kept checking over on our homepage. It looked like we had like 6 followers. Skywalking Marek 9188 gave me a shout out because I wanted to test that the chat capabilities with OBS is working. It is. So we are very close to putting a thumbs up, if not 2 thumbs up, going forward. But yeah, so next week we will be all way, but we'll be doing a Juneteenth follow-up, right? Because you're off that day.
Yes, I'm free all day on Juneteenth, which
That's
is on
a Friday, right? That's a Friday.
Friday, June 19th.
Okay. Yeah.
And so we will do a Friday and a Sunday that weekend. Yeah.
Woo! Sounds good to me,
And
my
brother. I'm also going to go live after this. I'm going to take a little break, but then I'm going to go live. Now you're going to be able to send me the Sentient Dome.
I'm scanning both of these right after this, and then sending them to you. So be on the lookout.
Yeah, because I actually don't hardly have any room for any text on that page because I want to print that picture a half a page. So what I might do is we might make the Sentient Dome split a page with the Duke and just have some reading there.
Okay.
Or yeah, because we have the automaton picture. Now that's like almost a full page, right? That like
it is. It is a full page.
Right, but if we run it as a full page, or slightly smaller than a full page, and we put some text around it, I still have this. Look, see this double page spread that I have here? Let me tilt up a little bit. So this is a double page spread. It says, remember the Duke. It's got a picture of the Duke. It's got all this writing, and it's got another picture of the Duke here. And then I have another picture of the Duke. And then we have that, and then we have the automaton. So, that's the challenge for next time is how to lay all this out and how much text, because I have a lot of text here to put in there, but
right.
but we have this really, really big image that you just made, and it's going to be for sale, and it's going to be as original art as published in Do Magazine #1, right?
Right.
And so that was Jake's version of the automaton that that Alex turned in kind of like a different version. But yeah, so that's the challenge is fitting all this out. We're going to be talking about the Duke because these are lead-in pages, like multiple lead-in pages, or maybe we can have one after. Yeah, because if we do one after and then but then so I have this whole page still free here, so we can make the Sentient Dome. That's what we'll do. We'll make the Sentient Dome 2 pages because there's.
Well, we still have the fan art. Still want the fan art in. We got 3 of those. Have you pulled them in?
No. So I have room for the fan art here. I could put 2 of them here.
Okay.
No problem.
Okay.
I'll pull those in now so we can start to finalize a little bit.
Cool.
But one of them is by Noah.
Yep.
And that's coming in right now. And there it is. And yeah, I like how this looks, even though her arms aren't muscly. We've got to talk about that. And if you're going to do turbo, the arms need to be gigantically muscly. And there's no reason why this has to be here. This masthead. This is just a redo from last time. Now these
you also have Ralph and Gotham. You got those too, right?
Yep, I'm about to bring Ralph in right now.
Cool.
Now Ralph gave us 2 sketch cards.
One he inked, and one was just penciled.
Right. So we have to decide what we're gonna do with that.
Just get the ink one.
Just get the ink one. Yeah, it's a nice looking one. Where's that one? Here.
Ralph.
All right, and if we isolate that, yeah, we'll have room for it all. Are we captioning anything?
Well, we want to say their names.
Okay, so that's a caption. I mean, Noah has his little signature on the bottom.
Still want it typed out.
Ralph actually signed over the art, so his signature has to run. And it's not fitting. That means it's scanned. That's some weird resolution. Let me bring in the other one. That one, yeah. So and Gautam.
Yeah, got him. Shioran.
That was a long time ago. We haven't spoken to Gautam in a while.
Oh, I do. I talk to him all the time. He's actually working on a crime story, so it's he's joined the Brotherhood.
All right, so Gautam put in the Turbo Pit Fighter logo here.
Right.
And that kind of makes the art a little smaller now. We could have made the art bigger.
Well, I would like to give, my original idea was to give each one of them, basically a quarter page, and then have the fourth quarter be basically, thanks to these artists, these indie artists, Gautam Shioran, Pulp to Pixel to Pulp, just give them a little bit of a shout out there. I just think it's really nice to encourage.
Yeah, we got to do all that. All
right, but it's past 1. I gotta get rolling. Sorry.
Okay, so folks, check us out next week. We're gonna be live. Sorry, we were half an hour late today, but not next week, but next Friday the 19th, we'll be on live. Join us at 10 a.m. Eastern time. And if you want to check out our other tabs, we have Comics That Influence, where we do flip throughs 100% of the time. And check out our creator interviews and all kinds of other interviews on our other tab, the Indie Creator Exchange, all visible at the Turbo Pit Fighter YouTube channel. And here we have live chat. Thanks for Skywalking Marek for participating today. I'm going to close this out. And if you want to engage at any time, if you want to share something, if you want to do a turbo pinup, or if you want to show us what you're working on, you can go to our social media. And this is our Do Mags landing page. If you go to domags.com, it'll bring you to our link tree, where we have links to our Twitter, Pinterest. You could buy our teaser. You could go to our Substack. You can get all of our free sci-fi. You can go to our channel and see our back episodes and all the above and more. So that's it for us. We'll see you guys next Sunday. And peace out. Peace in the Mideast. See you in the funny papers.
All right, Jake. I'll see you next